Awesome to be here with you guys. This is the 0 to 60K challenge. We've got Johnny in the house and Truman here in the gazebo office. We're sitting in Puerto Rico trying to do deals wherever, all over the country. Michigan, really, with you guys. I think we'll have hopefully Nathan and Jared joining us. We'll see. But I'm excited to do this week with you guys. Excited to catch up with where you guys are at from last week, how things are going, what you're progressing with. And if you're doing your assignments, if you're staying on track with your calls, challenges you're having, and so on.
Yeah, we need a new book.
A new book. Oh, you got through the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going through the exercises. We'll pull that up in a second. If you guys are new here, let me explain real quickly what this is all about. What we're going to do here is we're creating a very structured program. By the way, guys, leave a comment. Let me make a note here. Let's see, where's this at? Send your questions. Okay, put this in here. Let's see. Show this. Okay, put your name and city in the chat. Let us know how you're doing. I'd love to hear if you're doing the challenge, if you're following along and you're, taking the steps each day in the outline for the program. I'd love to know if you're following along and trying to do this. So say hello, put your name in the chats and stuff, and we'll make sure that we make some time to recognize you if you have questions and so on. Okay, let me put that back on. Let me put the chat on. Okay, great. So what we're doing here, guys, if you don't know, is the overview of this program is it's a very structured daily plan. And the goal here is to go from 0 to your first deal to hopefully a few deals to get to $60,000 in net profit. And we're hoping we can do this in 6 months or less. We've definitely got to get to work here to get on track for this. And the goal of this program is to do this in a way to where you're going to gain the skills and the experience that you need to then have that foundation so that you can go on and build a business. If that's what you choose, move it from a side hustle to a full-time business. The numbers are staggering. I mean, this really can be a 6 and even a 7-figure business, wholesaling and flipping. So it's pretty exciting what the potential is here. Now, this is a great program for you if you're new to wholesaling, if you don't have a lot of money or no money to get started, but you do have a little bit of time. And when I say a little bit of time, I mean 4 hours a day. So I guess that's not a little bit, that's kind of a lot. But you've got to be able to put in the time, energy, and effort to do this, to get this off the ground and working. Here's what the commitment looks like. You've got to do 4 hours a day. That's going to be 30 minutes a day in book reading. If you guys have finished the book, we've got to get you going on another book. I've got a few in mind. Let me decide which one that is for sure. The first book that we started with is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. We're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. And the assignment from that book was to write down the 17 wealth files that he talks about in that book and the different principles and declarations. So hopefully you that are doing that are also doing the homework assignment with that book. Then you need to be doing 30 minutes a day improving your real estate skills. And I've outlined in the PDF a whole bunch of YouTube videos as you go through each of the different aspects of, of finding leads and making offers. And then you've got to do 3 hours a day prospecting. And I want you to record your calls, even if nobody looks at them but you. Record your calls and then go back and watch them. Are you guys actually watching your calls after you record them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like some of them I like, and then I'll go back to those later.
Yeah. Because you're like, man, look at me go.
Yeah.
I probably should watch more of mine. I kind of just get secondhand embarrassment.
What are you eating, cereal?
No, this is ground beef.
Taco seasoning, taco meat. Johnny's eating a bowl of taco meat. Okay, so yeah, I would recommend right after you do the call, just go back and watch it and look for things. Look for your mannerisms, how well you're listening. Are you actively listening? If someone were to be watching you, if the agent were watching you on the other line, what would be their perception? Okay, so be thinking about that as you watch your calls. You'll learn a lot just watching yourself on the phone. A lot of times I'll do this with myself and I'll think I had like this great call and I'll watch it again and I'm like, man, my energy wasn't that great, or I looked like I was kind of mad. Whatever you perceive is what's coming across on the other side. It may not seem like it because they don't see you, but trust me, your mannerisms, your energy, all of that comes through to the listener. Okay. So we're going to be doing 3 hours of prospecting a day. Now, let's talk about what that looks like exactly. That is going to look like, we're about to talk about our market. Let me get to the metrics. Okay, so deal number one, which we're hyper-focused on with you guys right now, is we have to do, it's going to be on market. So that means we're going direct to agent. And we're going to move to off market on deal number two. So we'll get to that. But right now, I want you just focusing on agent outreach. And to do that, your metrics are 5 offers a day, doing the sniper method. That's calling a specific distressed property for sale, calling the listing agent, and double dipping and making an offer. 5 a day. That's 10 cold calls a day. And this is the shotgun method where you're just going to call any agent in your market, doesn't matter who, and you're just going to let them know that you're looking for deals and if they have anything. And then 10 follow-ups a day. Now, this is proven to be challenging. This is a lot of work. How are you guys doing on this past week?
I think last week was my worst week.
Me also.
Okay. You're also hitting that crunch time. You guys are about 4 weeks in. I think this was the 5th week. This is where most people quit. It's hard now because you're like, man, I've been grinding for 4 weeks. I really don't have the energy, or I'm not feeling super excited about getting on the phones today. This is where you guys have to plow through. Seriously. This week and this next week and going forward, you're going to be like, this sucks. I don't like this. Maybe there's something else I could do instead. And you're going to talk yourself out of it. You're going to find excuses. All of a sudden, your calendar is going to get busy. All those things happen because this is where it gets really tough.
Yeah.
You feeling that?
About you're gonna get discouraged, and I even know it's gonna happen, but when it really happens, you get something close, it still happens. You just get discouraged.
Yeah.
Even though you're planning for it almost.
And you guys have gotten close. Both of you guys have gotten so close, and it's almost like that really close deal can be really painful.
Yeah.
Because you're like about to taste success, and then it gets pulled out from under you. It feels like the rug got pulled out from under you, and it's real easy to kind of sink into a little bit of discouragement. So I just want to encourage you to push through that. It's okay. That's normal, by the way. That's super normal. Don't feel like I'm not really, I'm lacking motivation. It's actually super normal. The winners, though, they push through, and the people that really do well in this business, they don't let that stop them. It's interesting because if you think about it, it isn't that people that are really good at this business, they never get discouraged. It's just they work through it really well, right? They still do the calls because they know they have to do the calls. So it doesn't matter if they're feeling good. Doesn't matter if they're feeling bad. Doesn't matter if their energy's up. Doesn't matter if it's down. And I've seen you guys do this with things you're committed at. Like Jonathan, you go to the gym because a crappy workout's better than no workout. Right? You've had crappy workouts.
Yeah.
But how do you feel when you're done, even though you're like, that wasn't my best workout? At least I showed up. It feels good. Awesome. Now, in the moment, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I wasn't here right now. Right? But you know that you just got to do it and put the reps in. So this is very much like that. So I just want to encourage you guys and be that sounding board telling you, hang in there, keep going, don't give up. Have you ever heard of 3 feet from gold? It's this analogy that someone's digging, for gold.
Yeah.
And most people, they're literally when they quit, they're 3 feet. So gold's right here and you're digging and you're like, this sucks, I quit. And you're that close.
Yeah, I've seen that diagram.
Yeah.
Mostly for Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't quit. Yeah, it's definitely true in wholesale real estate. I really wonder how many people would be successful wholesalers today had they not quit when they did. It's kind of like, I look at it like a big hill, and right now you guys are pushing the boulder up the hill. And it's kind of like 2 steps forward, you slip back a little bit, and you're like, man, I feel like I'm just inching my way up this hill. But what happens is if you keep going, then you're going to round the corner, and then now it's going to start to snowball. And what's interesting is your 10th deal is 10 times easier than your first deal, and your 100th deal is 100 times easier than your 10th deal. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So because it's momentum, it's called the law of momentum. The more momentum you build, the easier and the more naturally things start to happen.
Yeah, I was thinking, because it was taking, usually you get 100 calls and you get your first deal. And I think I already hit that mark. But like,
Yeah.
I know for sure not calling is not going to give me a deal.
Yeah, that's for certain.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so why would I stop calling? Even if it takes me 5 months to get one deal.
Yeah, it's true. There's no guarantee you'll get a deal, but you're for sure guaranteed not to get a deal if you don't do it. Like that's a given. Yeah, I love some of you guys' comments. Keep participating in the chats, guys. Love this.
Did you let Nathan?
Is he in? Oh, sorry. Let's see. Let's let Nathan in. Come on in, Nader Tater. Are you there, Nathan?
Hey, what's good? I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Nathan.
Do we have an update on his?
Nathan, any word on your short sale?
Yeah, I was just talking to him this morning. He says everything.
Oh, you cut out. You cut out. Yeah, you cut out. What did the agent say?
He said everything with the short sale's looking good. He thinks it'll probably be good by sometime in July. Like the bank will approve it by sometime in July. And then he said he's starting to look on market and off market for any deals that we could do together.
All right. Yeah. Dude, there's something that happens when you do your first deal with an agent. They're like locked in now. And what I found is once you do one deal with an agent, you can pretty much guarantee you'll do 5 deals with an agent or 10 deals with that agent because you've proven yourself. They know you perform. They saw the reward of like double dipping. And now like you're their person. You're their guy. They're going to go to you, Nathan. That guy's going to go to you every time he gets deals. He's going to give you preferential treatment because he knows you can perform. Okay.
Nice.
So Nathan, I've been thinking about whether we want to start working that deal already. There's a risk that we do, and then for some reason it doesn't get accepted. So I think we'll wait a little bit longer, but let's stay in touch with that agent. As long as he keeps feeling like we're moving in the right direction and the bank's going to accept that short sale, then we can start working on dispo and find our buyer. But the good news is, if you remember, we structured that with a 30-day close after bank acceptance.
So we got time.
Well, once the bank says yes, we got a full 30 days. So we got plenty of time to get our buyer. So we don't really need to do too much about it right now. It's probably not a good use of time right now. So what I want you to do, Nathan, is I want you to pretend like that's not a deal in your pipeline as far as getting back to the grind on this. And I know you have. But the one thing that I see often happen in this business is people get a deal or two and then they get some money in the bank and then they kind of relax a little bit and they don't keep showing up and doing the calls.
Okay.
And this is a pipeline. Like a pipeline means if I want to do a deal in 3 months from now, I got to be calling today because today's calls are going to equal deals in 3 months.
Gotcha.
Yeah, complacent is the kiss of death to a wholesaler. And it's easy to happen because especially if it's a big win, like you do a big deal, you know, imagine Johnny, 15 grand in your pocket right now. You're going to be like, okay, I'm good. I got my bills are covered for a while. Like, let's go to the beach, right? Let's go do some surfing. I'm good. Instead of like getting back on the horse and going after the next one, because nothing's worse than a roller coaster wholesale operation where you're up, you're down, you got money, then you go 3 months with no deals. That's almost guaranteed to quit because inconsistent income is not a way to manage a life. It's hard to manage a life around that. It's normal. It happens and you'll go through it, but we want to do everything we can to avoid that. Okay. So jumping back over here, Nathan, just keep your line on mute because we can hear you in the car while you're not talking.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So again, focus on these metrics, guys. The metrics are everything. You know, like I can tell the success of a wholesaler by how well he hits his metrics. So 5 offers a day, 10 cold calls a day, and 10 follow-ups a day. Now the follow-ups are either those sniper agents that you've already talked to or they're shotgun agents where you're just checking in again. Hey, we spoke last week for a minute. Do you remember me? Just checking in again. Do you have any distressed properties coming up for sale? Do you have any listings that I could take a look at and make an offer on? Remember, I'm all cash. Like that's the follow-up. Doesn't necessarily have to be a phone follow-up. It could be a text follow-up. you just don't want to rely too much on text or email follow-ups. You want to maybe do like every other one or every third one a phone call. Because again, it's about the relationship, and a phone call is going to create more of a relationship than a text or an email. Now, again, the text and email is fine as long as you're communicating and you're staying in front. You want to be front and center. You want that agent, when he gets a great lead, to go, man, I wish I had a cash buyer right now. I wonder who I could call. Or maybe he's thinking, you know what? I got a bunch of cash buyer investors in my phone. If I could call one right now, who would it be? Oh, Truman. And he calls Truman. Because why? Because Truman's staying front of mind for him. You're front and center, so he thinks of you when it's time. Okay, so those are the main things I wanted to focus on. Let me see if there's any other slides here I want to touch on before we jump in. Update. There we go. Talked about our market. This is some of the process stuff. So I think we're good here on some of this. I just wanted to make sure everyone's clear on the program. I'm going to go ahead, and in case you guys don't have it, or if you're joining in for the first time, I think I guess I'll grab it real quick. Let me grab the link to the 0 to 60. It's a Google link that you guys can have. Let me add that to the chat real quick. So this is the 0 to 60 challenge, and it's the outline. Okay, so I put the outline there in the chat if you guys don't have that. I'll also put this in the comment section after this live is over. You can get it there as well.
Does this have all the videos you need to watch too?
Yeah, this has all the videos. So if you guys are ever thinking about a video, and you guys, by the way, right now, once a week, I'm releasing a Watch Me Wholesale show. Watch those. This is your chance to see me talking to agents. Of all the things you're doing right now, it's great because you'll hear how I position, the questions I ask, how I respond, all of that. And I do a random market every single week, and it's called the Watch Me Wholesale show. I release them right now. I'm releasing them, I think, on Saturdays, sometimes Fridays. So be sure to watch those. Like the last one I did was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it was a great call with the agent. So you can learn a lot from those. So make that a standard thing you do. And I think I've done now like 40 or 40 something of those. So you can go back and watch every one of those. And I explain why I did what I did. After I talk to the agent, I walk through, what I learned from it or what you can learn from it. So it's really good. Okay, so let's now jump into real quick, and I'm going to share my screen, and I want to take a minute. We're not going to take too long on this, but I do want to take a minute and talk about the homework with the book. Okay, so I'm going to go grab this. And I just want to touch on maybe another section that we talked about last week. Last week we talked about wealth file number 2. Rich people play the money game to win. Poor people play the money game not to lose. Remember that? This week, let's talk about wealth file number 3. Rich people are committed to being rich. Poor people want to be rich. So what's the difference between you're committed to it or it's like a wish or you would maybe like to someday? What do you think?
Maybe one has has tasks they're trying to execute to get to their goal instead of just hoping something will happen.
Yeah. It sounds like, the rich person's taking action, and then the poor person's just kind of, dreaming.
Yeah, most people getting rich is like, man, that would sure be nice. Boy, I would love that one day. Whereas rich people, they've made a commitment to it. They're like, no, I am going to be wealthy. I am going to be rich. That's a priority in my life. And then they go to work to make it happen. So the principle here, guys, is the number one reason most people don't get what they want is because they don't know clearly what it is that they want. They don't define that. So if you send mixed messages to the universe, you're going to get a mixed response, right? So if you say money's not important, what's going to happen? You're not going to have it because it's not you don't care about it. It's not important to you. Well, the next wealth principle here is if you are not fully, totally, and truly committed to creating wealth, chances are you won't. I had an experience with Britta, so Jared's wife, and I'll share this story. I was talking with her, and I'll stop sharing this for a second. So this is my daughter-in-law married to my oldest son, and we were talking about it, and she said, "Oh, Jerry, I just don't want to have to worry about money. I just don't want to have to worry about money. Like making money, managing money, investing money." That's what she meant. I don't want to have to worry about all that. And so I looked at her and I said, if you don't want to worry about money, you won't have any. Like if you don't want to make money, you won't have any. If it's not a priority, you won't have any. If you're not thinking about it, if you're not wondering how it's created, how to invest it, how to grow it, how to manage it, you won't have any. So it's the process of making it a priority that allows you to then create it. And money is a creation. Like we think it's a finite resource. It's actually not, because money isn't a piece of paper. It's your ability to go out and create in the marketplace. And there's endless creation that we can do in the marketplace. There's an infinite amount of wealth to go around. The challenge is most people don't want it, so they don't go create it. And those that do have an abundance of it. There's no shortage of it. Okay, so it really is manifesting that to the universe that will allow you then to attract it and achieve it. Okay, so if we go back to the wealth files, let's pull that back up. So he talks about how there are 3 levels of wanting. So wanting to be rich is just hoping that money will fall on you, versus choosing or deciding to be rich, or committing to be rich, which is to devote yourself unreservedly. So the declaration here is, I commit to being rich. And when I first started, this wasn't really a thing for me. Like I was more interested at the time of creating a better financial situation for my family. I was working in construction. I felt like it just wasn't going to provide for the needs of my family. And at first I just wanted something better. And then early on, I read this book, and this is when I consciously made a decision. I said, you know what? I actually want to be wealthy, and I'm going to commit to the process of becoming wealthy. And here's the crazy thing. I was 27 at the time when I started wholesaling, and by 30, I had become a millionaire. In 3 years, started wholesaling, grew wholesaling, started flipping, and it took about 3 years to kind of hit that millionaire status. Now, that would not have happened had I just been wholesaling without the vision and without committing to the wealth part. Because a lot of wholesalers, they just do wholesaling and it's just a high-paying job. But how do you take it from a high-paying job to a legit business that actually creates a millionaire, turns you into a millionaire? It's really no different than just committing to the process and then going to work to make it happen. Okay, is that helpful? Any thoughts on that? Let me add, there's one more part here we'll cover and then we'll move on. Let me go back to this, share the screen.
I guess kind of like, enjoying the process of doing it, even when nothing's like coming from it. Because I feel like I've had weeks where I genuinely enjoyed, doing the work.
Yeah.
And nothing's coming from it yet, but it's kind of like satisfying to hit my goals. And so, yeah, I guess enjoying the process is kind of a big thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let me touch on that real quick, Truman. I'm glad you brought that up. So you're so right, because if we think that it's the wealth that's going to provide the happiness or the accomplishment, it's actually not. It's the journey to it that does it. And I think that's life in general, right? Like if we can't enjoy the journey, then once we get to any kind of destination, it'll be hollow, it'll be shallow, because you missed out on all the things that you learn along the way. It's the learning along the way that provides the real happiness. I had this big goal where early on I made this goal that I wanted to do a single deal that made $1 million, like $1 million flip. And I set this goal. I don't know why. I just set this goal a long time ago. And every year, you write your goals. I'd write my goals. I'd put that goal down. And I'd visualize it and I'd think about it. And I started to work towards it. So I would do higher end homes. And then a couple years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I actually hit that goal. And it was a new construction flip in Paradise Valley, Arizona. and the net profit on that deal was 1.2 million.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing. I was so focused on the goal that I didn't really enjoy the journey as much as I think I could have. And when I actually hit the goal, it was actually a letdown. You would think it wouldn't be, but it was sort of a letdown. I kind of did it and I thought, man, I thought that would feel a little different. I thought I'd feel a lot more ecstatic about it. And as I thought about it, I thought, you know what? I haven't appreciated all the things I've done to get it here. Like, you know, the learning and the growing and the $100,000 deal and the $250,000 deal and the development that I had as a person and the business growth. I sort of glossed over that, thinking that the end thing would give me all the happiness. And I think that's something we need to be really careful of when it comes to money and wealth. Like he says in the book, money and wealth are very important in the areas that they matter, and they're very unimportant in the areas that they don't matter. So like they don't matter when it comes to our spirituality or our relationships with the people in our life that matter, or our health and fitness. You know, some of those areas, wealth is not very important. It is important in the realm of finance and opportunity. So I think we just need to be really careful that we always keep it in the proper context. And so Truman, I love that you said, find the joy in the journey, because if you can actually find like a thrill out of doing the calls, and you know that part of it, the part of leading up to like putting a deal together, there's nothing that will stop you, because you'll do the work where most people won't do the work because the work is hard. But if you grow to love the work, then the work becomes easier and more manageable and more natural. Like you just show up for it because you're not afraid of it anymore. So I love that. That's awesome. Okay, let's talk real quickly here. He says, whoops. There's a little exercise to do here. So write a paragraph on exactly why creating wealth is important to you. Be specific. Meet with a friend or family member and make a commitment. I, Truman Richardson, do hereby commit to becoming a millionaire or more by, and pick a specific date. And this is on page 72 in the book, like how to make that declaration. And making that declaration, now your brain's going to go to work to make it a reality. Like that's the power of creating declarations in your life. Okay. You guys do that? Mm-hmm. All right. Let me turn this off. Stop sharing. Okay. Awesome. So, any thoughts on you guys that are listening here on the live right now? Any thoughts you're having? Anybody doing the assignment, reading the book, and doing the assignments on the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind? Okay. So some great comments here. I'll pull some of these up. Exactly what I needed today. Thank you, Jerry. How many hours are they calling? So they're calling. The goal is, the metric is 3 hours a day on the phones. Okay.
Which, I guess it's not so much as how many hours, but just
no,
however long it takes to get your.
That's right.
Like
good point.
Sometimes people respond really well in the day, and you can get it done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then maybe just an extra or something, but just try to hit the quota at least.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It's more about the metrics than it is about the time. Whoops. Who's trying to get in right now? Oh, sorry, Nate must have got booted.
Because if you're motivated by the time, then you're just going to sit there for 3 hours and never think about it. But if you're motivated by getting the numbers in, then you don't really care about the time, and you'll just do it till it gets done. But sometimes it takes longer than 3 hours.
Yeah, that's true. So remember, you wanna think about the metrics, which are 5 snipers, 10 shotgun, which is cold calls, and 10 follow-ups. So that should take around 3 hours, but it's not going to be exact because you might be on the phone longer, or you know what I mean. So, but you're right. Focus on the metrics more than anything else. Okay. That was that question. What book is this? So it's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker is that book. And you can get it on Audible. It's a really easy read. Didn't you guys think? Like, he's funny. It's really easy to follow. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So now what I want to do, guys, is I want to jump into where you're at in the process of things. How are you feeling about comping? How are you feeling about your conversations with agents? How are you feeling about the offer process? What challenges are you running into? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then and then we're going to get to some calls. So Johnny, you want to go first? What are you running into?
So with the buy and holds, I struggle trying to find the price on that I feel comfortable with. Or sometimes when my number that I need to get it at is close to what they have it listed at, then I just don't know what to do in that point. Or I do know what to do, but I'm just like skeptical of it. Don't feel confident in my numbers. But I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it. Today I called someone before even comping it and just was going to just guess what I think it was worth. And while on the phone I comped it, and it was exactly what I thought before I even comped it. So
now, how did you know? Just you knew the area, or you just
70%?
What's that?
The 70% rule.
Yeah. Of what? The Zillow or of?
I think of what the ARV. So I looked at some comps, I guess, but I didn't use the data analyzer.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. Well, good. Well, what do you think you need to work on then to improve that?
Probably just taking a little bit more time. Like I'm kind of in a rush sometimes. I don't know why.
On the call them beforehand, or?
Beforehand, I just probably should get a little bit more prepared because I can just call the agent sometimes and just ask them all the questions and then I don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we definitely don't want to spend too much time, but I think about 5 minutes getting prepared before the call on a sniper, because you want to run some comps, you want to get a ballpark number, run the formula, and be ready with an offer. And I've been thinking a little bit more because we talked about this quite a bit last week. And one of the things that we want to do with that lowball offer is it's more of an idea than an actual offer. Okay, so like one of the things that I'll do with direct to seller is I'll say, in the perfect world, I would need to be, in the low 100s for this to work. Now, what I did is it's not an offer, it's more of an idea of an offer. And all that's doing is it's soliciting a response from the agent. Okay, so sometimes we're like, okay, my deal analyzer says I need to be at 109.5. So I'm going to make a 109.5 offer and it's listed for, 215. and we think, well, I got to make the offer. So I'm going to actually make the offer. But remember, when we're lowballing, we're really just trying to see, does the agent have an appetite for this? They're not the seller. So ultimately the seller has to make the call. But how are they responding to my ballpark offer? And if the agent responds favorably and they're like, well, we could always call the seller and do a verbal and see what they say, then be like, okay, great. Why don't we go in at 109? Or why don't we go in at 105 and put a verbal in at that number? Right? But we didn't say 105, we said low 100s initially. And it's an idea that we're looking to see how they respond to. Does that make sense? And then if they're like, well, they won't take anything less than 200, then we might be able to say, well, I might be able to come up off of that low 100 number. But what do you think's the lowest the seller would entertain? Or what would you recommend we put in as an offer? I need to be down there, quite a bit under where they're at. What are your thoughts on that? So you're repositioning the conversation to get you down in that area where you need to be. And that's why comping it exactly is not as critical if you're far off.
Yeah, which is why sometimes I don't even comp it. I'll just call them and have a guess.
Yeah. If you feel like you've got an idea around what value is, and then you run a quick formula, initially that's usually good enough. So that's why, don't overdo it. Unless you're not far off. So if something comes out and it's super hot and it's priced really aggressively, and you're like, man, this is a deal, and I'm going to be probably somewhere pretty close to their asking price. Okay, now you want to get your head around it. You're going to go in a little bit different with that agent. You're going to talk about, how many offers are you getting? Are you getting a lot of showings? Can we try to get something in tonight and written up before everybody else? Like now your conversation is going to shift quite a bit. But if it's been on the market for 90 days and they're at 199.9 and you need to be at 105 and you're way far off, then you're going to present it more of an idea and you're going to try to work your way to some sort of a verbal offer typically. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to I thought about that a little bit more. I wanted to clarify on that. Okay. Awesome. So got a question here on creative. Maybe we'll get to that here in a second. A comment here about, let me just make sure we get some questions here. So we're trying to do this without investing in any tools, but the CRM that I recommend is Flipster. It's really awesome. You can go to joinflipster.com to get a 7-day free trial. There is a monthly subscription for that software if it's something that you really like, but it allows you to save all your contacts, save your deal analyzers. Everything communicates with each other. So you got your contracts and your offer sheets and your deal analyzers and your comping tools. Even has leads in there. So if you're doing off market, skip tracing, all kinds of tools. It's called Flipster. And so that's I think for wholesaling and flipping, it's one of the best out there. So be sure to check that out. If you don't have a budget for it and you can't, then just track it as best you can on a Google Sheet where you're tracking numbers, making notes for yourself to do follow-ups. Okay. There's a question here about off market. Anything on here with on market or what we're talking about? Let's see. So I'll try to get to some of these guys in a minute, but let's go ahead and jump over to some calls. Okay. How you guys feeling about your calls this week? I know Truman gave me a call, right? Did you give me one call, Truman?
Yeah, I gave you the call.
Okay.
It's like a not a great call. So
it's not a great call.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
I didn't really.
Yeah, my calls were okay.
This is a bad one.
But it's a bad one.
I could learn.
I forgot about some of the stuff we were supposed to go over, and then I said it, and then I was like, "No, wait, I'm not supposed to say that."
Okay. Well, you caught yourself though, right?
Yeah. I caught myself. That's good.
So, Johnny, how long are your calls? Let me look real quick.
Like 5 minutes.
Okay, good. 5 minute that one. 5 minutes that one. Okay, of these two, Johnny, which one should we do first?
I can't remember. They're both
okay.
Pretty similar.
So let me open this up, guys, and we're going to do a call. We're going to do Johnny first, and then we'll jump to Truman, and then we'll probably jump to Nathan last. Let me grab the screen here. And last time we did this, it worked well, where I share my screen, and then we jump onto your call. So can you guys tell me if this is
Johnny,
working?
I'm an investor, and I was calling you about Kenwood Street. I see you guys put this on about 15 days ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, what can you tell me about this house if it's not art? Johnny, I'm an investor. Street. I see you guys put this on about 15 days ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, what can you tell me about this house if it's not already, everything's already just listed in the description below?
Yeah, so great question. This is one of my favorite questions to start out. Hey, what can you tell me about the property? Another way I'll say this is, hey, so tell me what's going on with this one.
Yeah.
Now, some agents they're kind of a little confused. They might respond with well, it's all right there in the thing.
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
I asked them well, what do you want to know?
They go,
yeah, what do you want to know?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
And you're like,
so be ready for that. So when they say that, what kind of response can we give?
They always stump me with that one.
Okay, so what I'll say when they're like, well, what do you want to know? Is I'll say, well, I'm an investor, and it looks like this might be a good investment property. Are you looking for an investor for this, or are you looking for a retail buyer? That might be one way to transition. Or you might say, well, I'm looking through these pictures, and it looks like this needs a lot of work. Are you looking for a cash buyer on this property?
Yeah, typically, I think on one of these calls I ask that.
Yeah.
What are you guys looking for in a buyer? Are you looking for an investor or a home buyer? And they go, whoever gets higher in price. And then I go, so home buyer.
Yeah, well, that's important to know. So if they're like, whoever gives me the highest price, I'll say, well, yeah, but does this property qualify for a homeowner? Now, what's the difference between a homeowner and an investor? An investor would be cash only. Banks aren't going to finance a property that's not livable. So a retail buyer has to be able to get a loan. Now, not all do, but for the most part, they're going to get a loan from a bank. And the bank's not going to give them a loan if the property isn't livable, which means if it's hammered and roof's leaking and kitchen's ripped out and it doesn't have a furnace, then that's investor only, which means they're going to be looking for a cash buyer. So oftentimes we can tell what's what. Why are we asking the question? We're asking the question as an icebreaker. We're asking the question to get the agent to talk and start to share stuff. That's why we're asking that question. So if they don't want to ask the question, we need a follow-up question that makes sense, that's kind of smart, that will hopefully get them talking again. So when they're like, well, what do you want to know? Or, well, it's all right there, is you'll say something like, well, yeah, I'm taking a look at this. We're actually looking to buy a property as a flip or maybe even a rental, and we've got cash right now. So I'm wondering, would this be a good deal that I can buy for cash? And so I'm calling to see, looks like this is going on. So sometimes I'll say, yeah, it looks like this needs a lot of work. Oh, it looks like it's missing the kitchen. Are you looking for an investor on this property? Because that's what we do.
Mm-hmm. But Nathan.
What's that? Oh, Nathan needs back in. Right? Does that make sense? So be ready for a follow-up question there. If they're like, well, what do you want to know? Yeah, right. And then that also could lead into, you could say, well, I'm wondering, is this a good area for a flip? Like, would you recommend this as a good flip? Or would this be better as a buy and hold? We do both sometimes, but what do you recommend? What do you think is a good move here? And again, you might have your own idea. You might already know. You might be like, there's no way I would rent that, or there's no way I would flip that. Yeah, it's more about being curious. Curious evokes trust. So like when you come across a question, or when you're asking questions, you're giving the other person the opportunity to talk. And whenever people talk, they naturally let their guard down. So it just creates an icebreaker. It'll get them talking and sharing. And again, some might keep the wall up, which is your job to bring the wall down. Right? And how do you bring the wall down? Well, you want them to feel comfortable with you. You want them to feel like you're somebody they could do business with. You want them to feel like they're going to make money working with you. So that's where you start to bring up, well, man, I'm an investor and we're looking for a deal, and this might be something we want to make an offer on. Okay, so man, I was looking at the comps, and this looks like something that we might want to try to flip. Do you think this would be a good opportunity for a flip? And then they start talking, right? Like usually if you follow up with a halfway decent question after they're like, well, what do you want to know? Then they'll start to open up. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? Okay. So let's go back to the video.
My client inherited the property, never lived there. It was her mother's, been in the same family since it was built, pretty much.
Gotcha.
Johnny's bored.
Boring.
Johnny's bored. Boring.
Is pretty new. The hardwood floors on both. It needs a total, redo, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's a really good, sturdy house.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm sick right now, everybody. Do you know
what
the comps are sold for in the area if you were to fix up all those things?
Yes, they're.
Okay, so let's talk about the order of things. Okay, great question. We just want to make sure questions are powerful only if there's two things that make questions powerful. They're in the right order, and you use the right tonality. So questions are all about tonality. So what are different tones? You could be curious.
Hey, what's going on with this house?
Yeah, curious, confused. Sometimes confusion is awesome. Like it's like, man, I'm confused. Does this have a basement? And you're saying it in a way to where you're like confused. So it's a good question, but you're confused. It could be confrontational. You could be like, well, wait a minute. Are you sure about that? It's a little bit of conflict. Now, what does that do? What is conflict, confusion? Excitement, right? Those are all ways of your being, your tonality with the questions you're asking.
I like explain that to me.
Explain that to me. Yeah, that's like, help me understand that. Now, what that's doing is those are pattern disruptors. And pattern disruptors break somebody out of their mold of like, I got to keep my guard up. So whenever you do a pattern disruptor, it helps bring the guard down, because now they're like, oh, I'm kind of throwing it back a little bit. He's asking me a question. I got to think about the answer. I'm going to bring the wall down because I have to answer a question. See what I mean? And you want to do a mix of all of those. Confusion, excited, a little bit of confrontation sometimes. Like if you watch my calls, sometimes I'll be confrontational, not in a rude way, but I'll just challenge. That's the word, challenge. I'll challenge what they're saying. I'll say, well, are you sure about that? Or, well, what do you mean it's only going to be? Remember that one call where he's like, yeah, you could get this done with your buddies for $6,000 on the weekend. Remember that? Be like, well, hold on a second. Are you saying that I could carpet paint and blah, blah, blah for $6,000? Man, there's no way I could do that. How would you be able to do that? Dude, if you gave me a paintbrush and a hammer, I would screw things up really bad. You know, like you're just sort of like challenging their position a little bit.
And then you fight.
And then they're mad at you. No.
Then you argue.
Yeah. Then you argue, right? No, you don't argue.
Then you do what Nathan did last week.
Yeah. And be like, man, you're making this really hard for me, aren't you?
You watch that?
Yeah, I watched it.
Nathan, what are you doing, Nathan? Making dinner?
I was just making a protein shake. I'm still listening though.
All right, good. Looks like you're doing the dishes over there. All right, so let's jump back to your call, Johnny. So what I was going to say is, you were like, okay, tell me about the property, and then you were like, okay, well, what are the comps if I flipped it? Now, again, nothing wrong with that question, but what I want to do is I want to first say repairs. So what you would say is you'd say, I'm thinking this might be a good flip, and I'm looking at it to flip. To flip it, what do you think I would need to do to fix it up? I guess you could go either way. So think about it this way. What would I need to do to flip it? Or if you did it the reverse way like you did, and you said, hey, if I were to flip this property, what do you think it would sell for on the back end? So don't ask about comps. I would say, what do you think this will sell for? And I don't say never say ARV, because why?
They're not that.
That's a thing we use. Yeah, that's after repair value. Yeah, they don't know the vernacular for wholesalers. If they ever do say ARV, you need to be like, oh, is this a wholesaler? Because the wholesalers use that, not realtors, not real estate agents. But back end or on the resale, I'll say resale, I'll say back end.
She's like, no, there's no RV in the driveway.
Yeah, there's no RV in the driveway. Yeah, so they're gonna so never use words that agents understand. So yeah. So if you said ARV first, you would say, so what do you think this house would resell for if I fixed it up? And they'd be like, oh man, well, if you fix it up, it could get 200. Yeah. Now, what sometimes they'll say, well, it depends on what you do. Yeah. How many of you got that?
Yes.
Yeah. All the time.
You're the investor.
Yeah, you tell me. So,
buddy, you tell me.
Yeah, you tell me. So then I would say, well,
dude, I just want your opinion.
Yeah, I would say, well, I'm looking at what it would take to fix it up, and I'm just wondering, what I would need to do to hit the back end number. Right. So then sometimes what I'll say is well, I'm looking at some comps right now, or I looked at a comp before we got on the call, or right now I'm looking at a comp, and man, this thing got 200,000, but it's like decked out. I mean, like it's got everything looks brand new.
Yeah.
So
what I try and do is be like, this house better than me. This is my first time hearing about it. So when I ask you what it would need for repairs, if anyone's going to know about it, it's going to be you.
Yeah, you just want to say that in a way to where instead of saying that, try to follow up with a question. Because really what they're looking for, you're looking for them to still answer it without letting them off the hook, right? So then you would say, well, the reason why I'm asking is because if I were to buy this, fix it up, and resell it, I just want to make sure that I'm hitting the right number. And I'm wondering your opinion, because you're an agent in the market. Have you looked at the back end values over there? Do you know what they are? And they might be like, well, I don't know. I'd have to look right now. But a lot of agents know, because they should know. That tells you they're a good agent if they know. If they don't know, then they're not that great of an agent, because they don't understand their market very well.
I ran into some agents with integrity today.
With integrity?
Yeah. They're like, I was like, I'm all cash, and I'd let you represent me. He's like, oh, that doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure this girl gets a good deal.
Yeah, so if they say that, so what do you say when they say that?
It's very respectable.
Well, I would say...
I didn't know it's...
I would say, well, that's great, but I'm unrepresented, meaning I don't have a buyer's agent. Mm-hmm. and I'd like you to represent me on my side. That way you could still get both sides. Are you able to do that? Because they might be saying to you,
that leverage, but can you
yeah. Yeah, because they might be saying, well, look, I'm not interested in money. I just want to help the seller. Okay, well, if you could help the seller and make money, how does that sound? Right? Like, so you're not really, you're not, that's not a reason not to do it. Yeah, so I would just say, well, great. That's awesome, man. You sound like a great agent. Would you still be able to represent me and present the offer as my side? Are you able to do that? And then you're still trying to offer that to them, because let's be honest, anybody would like to make double the money for the same work. And that's what we're offering them. Make double the commission. Yeah. So sure, look, or you could say, look, I totally get it. If you represent the seller, that's awesome. I'm unrepresented. I just want to offer my side to you and get your help with writing the offer. Are you able to do that? Like, I'm not asking you to do something for me other than present and write the offer. And now we know that if they're getting both sides, they're naturally going to be interested in us winning, and they're naturally going to want to work with us in the future. Why wouldn't they? Anybody would. Okay. Now, some of them might say, well, that's a conflict of interest and I won't do it. Okay. Well, if they won't do it, then that's another story, because some people look at dual agency as, not a good thing, because I'm stuck in the middle between the seller and the buyer, and I don't want them mad at me. I don't want you mad at me.
Please both sides.
Yeah. But that's fairly rare where they choose not to. It does happen. I get it sometimes. Now, some states don't allow dual agency, like Florida and Texas, and they may say, well, I'm not allowed to do it. Some brokerages don't allow dual agency, and they say, well, I'm not allowed to do it.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm working the market in Florida, and I haven't had a single agent tell me they don't want to.
That's the funny thing. Yeah. Now, what they're doing, Nathan, is they're technically not doing dual agency, because you can't. What they're doing is they're doing what's called a transaction broker. So what that means is they're not representing either party. Now, they can do that so long as the seller's okay with it. So they'll go back to the seller and they'll say, hey, so I've got a buyer interested. Are you okay if we change our listing agreement to be a transaction broker? And I'm still going to help you and do everything I said I would do, but I'm also bringing the buyer. And that's how they're doing that. They're actually doing that as a neutral between the two, not I'm one or the other or both.
Gotcha.
Because a listing can be one or the other or both or neither are your different options. That makes sense? Yep. But trust me, in Florida and Texas, we're double dipping every single day. So it's just let them decide how they want to structure it. You just offer it. That's what I tell people. Just offer it and let them decide how they want to do it. They're going to know how to do it on their end. Okay, so question here real quick. Let's answer this because this is important. So if you're wholesaling and offering both sides, don't you have to get it even deeper, because that is a higher entry fee and could cut into the assignment fee? Michelle, no, because the seller is paying the buyer side commission. Now this is all going to change pretty soon. July 1 is when the new laws come out over the settlement with NAR. And now it's up for discussion. Now it's going to be determined who pays the commission for the buyer side. Prior to July 1, depending on when you're watching this, July 1 of 2024, it's typically paid directly by the seller. So even though they're representing us, the seller's paying the buyer side commission. So it's not a fee we pay. But again, this may change going forward, because now the buyer has to negotiate with their buyer's agent how they get paid. The seller could still pay it, or the buyer could pay it directly, or it could be a concession that's offered at closing. That'll now be a new discussion we have here in the near future. That makes sense? Any questions on that, guys? You got to make sure that you're clear on that.
I kind of had a question. I think I saw one of your videos saying in South Carolina, like, wholesaling is not going to be allowed anymore. Like, you think it's going to grow?
Yeah, well, this is a discussion I have all the time in the industry. By and large, regulation is coming, and it's coming faster, and it's getting more aggressive. And so the traditional way of wholesaling, which is assignments and double closings, is going to get harder and harder. And I think the end game of these regulators is to try to stop it. Now, will they be able to entirely? Can they undo contract law, which gives equitable interest in a contract? All of that's to be determined. South Carolina certainly seems like they're trying to. There's a new law coming out with, I was just talking to somebody about it in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania right now just introduced a new bill that they're pushing real hard. That it's the first time I've seen this. What Pennsylvania is saying is they're saying we'll allow wholesaling under certain parameters, disclosure and a license and certain things, so long as the wholesale fee is reasonable. That's how they wrote the law. The bill is written where the wholesale fee is reasonable. Now, I've never seen them say, a certain amount of money is okay, but too much money is not okay. And that's that's the first time I've seen that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they define as a reasonable wholesale fee.
Yeah, who gets to decide what's reasonable and what's
not? Apparently the Real Estate Commission is going to decide what's reasonable. Yeah, which is just like, how's that fly, right? Like, how is that a thing?
No more 100Ks.
Yeah. Well, my $100,000 assignment was reasonable as far as I'm concerned, So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But Truman, your question though is, this is why, you want to be adaptable in the market. You want to be able to do multiple exit strategies. You want to be able to look at deals from lots of different perspectives, because all it means we're going to have to adjust how we do things. Now, they'll never stop transacting. No one can ever stop you from buying and selling real estate. As long as people live in houses, I think people will buy and sell, and we have an opportunity. We may have to adjust how we do that is all. Yeah. Okay, so where were we? Oh, your call. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Just why are the states all doing this? Like, what benefit does it have to the government?
Okay, so real quickly, the reason why is because wholesaling has now grown to a multi-billion-dollar industry. And now the consumer protection agencies have gotten enough complaints from sellers who feel like they were wronged. Now, how does a seller get wronged? A wholesaler says, I'll buy your house. They sign a contract. In their contract, they have contingencies that allow them to back out of the contract. Seller packs the U-Haul and he's in the driveway. On the day of closing, the wholesaler backs out and leaves the seller high and dry. So that happens, and that seller complains, and enough people get complaints, then they start looking into it. They start wanting to say, okay, well, how do we protect the consumer? The whole point of like the Real Estate Commission is they're responsible for licensees. Their job is to oversee licensees. Well, who's licensees? Real estate agents and property managers. And they also they oversee uncommissioned sales. So if you go out and you earn money helping somebody buy or sell real estate, that has to be licensed. The law says that's called brokering, and in order to broker, you need a real estate license. Well, the argument is that wholesaling is nothing more than brokering. That's their position. Now, it's not, because we have a contract, and that contract gives us equitable interest, and we're selling our rights to the contract. We're not brokering a sale. But they're saying, a lot of these real estate commissions are saying, well, wait a minute, we don't think that's what's happening. We think brokering is happening. So we either want you to get a license to do it at all, or we want you to get a license to market a contract for sale, and we want you to provide disclosures to the seller that you're a wholesaler. A lot of states are doing that one. Or maybe we're even going to try to find a way to stop it all together. And at least they're going to try to stop it all together. At least that's what it looks like South Carolina is trying to do. And the reason why I say that about South Carolina is because I interviewed a member of the Real Estate Commission, and that's what he says the commission is trying to do, stop it. So, so here we are. So what does that mean? It means if you're in a state that has passed regulation, you need to make sure you're following the proper disclosures. You might have to have a real estate license to wholesale, and you just need to start following the rules. Or find workarounds. So maybe there's a workaround.
Different state.
Or move to a wholesaler-friendly state.
Which is the best state for wholesaling?
Michigan.
No, don't Michigan. He's lying.
Michigan. No. Florida.
Yeah.
Any state that doesn't have regulation, which there's this year alone, 5 states have passed regulation just in like the first couple months of this year. 5 states. Yeah, but don't look at it that way. Like I look at it like it's creates more opportunity, right? Yeah.
Medicine, right?
Well, some maybe that, but what happens is when there's friction in the industry, people leave. So if someone quits because there's a little bit of friction, then great. For one, they never should have been here, and 2, that makes more opportunity for the rest of us. So like I look at it like it's okay, we'll deal with it.
Less competition.
I mean, we'll just deal with it. Like there's only so much we can do, and let's just step up to the plate. But more than anything, we need to all, raise the bar and perform at a higher level. Like stop backing out of contracts and hurting sellers.
Yeah.
Have proper disclosure, all the things. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was
all right.
Let's get back to my embarrassing call.
Let's get back to Johnny's call. Little tangent there, but let's talk about whoops, not that. Let's get
that actually helped though.
Let's get Nerd Johnny back.
Okay, wow.
Okay, so you said comps and she rattled them out. Like you're like, okay, 300, 310. So this agent knows her market.
This is a good neighborhood then.
It is. Rent is crazy in that area.
Yikes.
And that's exactly what I figured. Either a young family would get it first time because it's affordable, or somebody's going to turn it into a rental.
Yeah.
Okay, so Johnny, she just disclosed to you who your buyers are. What did she say? She said a young family
or a buy and hold.
Or a buy and hold. Now, I don't even need to see this house, and I know what kind of condition it's in. Why?
It was like a 3-1, 1,100 square feet, kind of dated.
Well, that's the features of the house, but how do we know that it's
like livable, right?
Yeah, it's livable. Now, why do we know that?
Because she said it's new family ready to move in.
We're looking for a new family to move in, or what?
A buy and hold.
A buy and hold, because a new family is going to deal with it being old and dated and a little busted, right? They'll deal with that because they're like barely able to qualify to buy the house, so they'll deal with it being not brand new. Or a buy and hold guy is going to eat it alive. Why? Same thing. He's going to move tenants in and not have to spend money on it. Now, why did she not say a flipper?
Because it doesn't need that much work.
Because a flipper, there's no way a flipper can pay the same as a homeowner or a buy and hold investor. A flipper is going to have to buy it super deep so that he can go in there and replace all the old and busted and dated stuff. So when you run into properties like that, getting it at the flipper number on market is going to be challenging, which means you got to change your analysis. Your one shot at this is going to be buy and hold numbers.
I don't think you're going to like the rest of this call.
Yeah, so don't just think through one lens. That's the problem here, is if you're looking at it through the flipper lens, then your offer is going to be ridiculously low.
This was like my first call of the day, okay?
Same with mine. When you're like not like
it's a Monday,
in the zone, like
took the weekend.
Like when it's like your first call, you don't really.
What I didn't start doing is watching all my calls and then starting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does take some warm up, right? I mean, like first couple calls, maybe get in the groove. The more calls you do, though, the more natural it is. The more things you pick up. So let's go back to your call. But does that give you an idea there when you're actively listening? Remember, you want to listen to what they're saying, and what does it mean? Why are we asking these questions? Okay, let's go back and hear Johnny make a lowball offer. Whoops.
I don't even know if I said my price in this one. Yeah, so I'm an investor. I'd come in here. I'd probably fix all those issues up. Then want to make some money of my own. So let's see. Offer would probably end up coming in around at like 200,000. Is that something they'd maybe consider?
No, we actually have. We had an offer actually over asking, and then the buyer backed out because they found out they were pregnant and they wanted a ranch. So
they found out they were what?
Pregnant.
Why was that funny?
He laughed. I laughed. I don't know.
Okay, Jonathan.
She was chuckling. You just didn't hear because of my laugh.
Okay.
I was just matching the energy.
Okay, that's good then.
Sure.
I was thinking of you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about, remember when Poe and their bad guys laughing? He's like, why are we laughing? Okay, so all right, Johnny. So Johnny's mirroring, which is good. So she laughed about them being pregnant.
Guys.
And Johnny laughed.
Funny, Johnny, but okay.
Okay, but what happened here was, Johnny, she said we're looking for a buy and hold or a retail buyer. And then
I would even need to be. My price was 200,000. That would have been good for a with buy and hold because they had it listed at 220.
Yeah, so that might have worked for buy and hold, you might want to still be under that, but the point would be, this is where when you're like, okay, buy and hold or retail, I might say something like, have you gotten any offers so far?
I think I asked.
Okay. Well, she came out and said, well, we got an over ask offer. Yeah. Have you gotten any offers? And then I'll ask sometimes, well, what do you think?
Just watch the rest of
Okay.
Keep watching the video.
Okay. Let's watch okay, Johnny, you're good point.
So,
wait.
Gotcha. You guys have had a lot of interest in it, though.
Yes. So,
Gotcha.
And then I have another offer that is over that as well.
Okay, and
Accepted yet. We have two more showings, second showings tomorrow, and they think we're good rate as well.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this thing's going for full price or over full price. 2 over asking offers and 2 showings tomorrow.
So at this point, I kind of know my deals with my
yeah.
is not going to do anything, so I just try and salvage the rest of it.
Okay, good.
Future. You know what type of home buyer they are? Are they an investor, or are they just trying to get a home?
Actually, one investor and the other 2 are they would be owner occupants.
Okay, and then
okay, that was a good question. I mean, you asked it a little weird, but that was a good question.
Other investor what was his number? He was at asking.
No, actually, he didn't give me a number. He was working with.
I wanted to know if I was correct. So
they're going to go back and check it out one last time tomorrow.
Yeah. What'd you ask?
I asked where was the investor at? What was the investor's price at? And she said he didn't give me a direct offer.
Good feedback, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
Like, all right,
so that's not an offer.
Yeah.
An offer. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder how, because sometimes I ask the listing agents how often they've gotten the offers. There's other investors at the same number as mine, and it just like confirms that that's where I need to be. So
yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't explain that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't explain your playbook.
Yeah, I need to be at like 200. So that if you guys are going to get above that, good for you. If not, give me a call back. And then quick question before I. Yeah.
Okay, the typical I would do it myself.
Yep. Quick question though. How often would you say you come across distressed properties?
Good, Johnny. Good. This is. Yeah.
Well,
investor type properties.
I think she might have sent me. Yeah, just been doing a few of them lately.
Yeah.
I do have another one that actually is.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, I called it back.
Are you looking solely for flips or are you looking for rental properties?
So I'll do rentals. I'll do flips. Sometimes I'll wholesale them. It really depends on what the property is.
I wouldn't say that.
Don't say wholesale?
No.
I would say we do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, but all that does is let's talk about that.
Because before you said, when they ask you, are you going to wholesale it, you say, sometimes I do wholesale, sometimes I do fix and flips.
That's if they ask you. You volunteered it. So why volunteer that you might wholesale it? Like, what does that accomplish?
Just lets her know that I don't know what I'm doing with it right now until I kind of know more about it.
Yeah, but when you volunteer that information, it might create an objection where they're like, oh, wait, you're going to wholesale it? I don't like wholesalers.
I always thought you just say that you make the contract assignable, and that's like the farthest you ever go.
Yeah, well, unless they point blank ask you. So if an agent says, are you a wholesaler or are you going to wholesale this deal? Then the response I give is I say, if you mean, do we sometimes assign our contract? Yes, sometimes we assign our contract. Sometimes we flip, sometimes we rent, sometimes we assign our contract. But that they want to let you lie. But that's only if they're asking you, because you don't want to lie, you don't want to be deceitful. But volunteering that you are a wholesaler doesn't really accomplish anything for you. Like, I don't know what gain that does for you other than maybe create objections. Does that make sense? But it's not like we're embarrassed about it or trying to hide it. It's just, why create an unnecessary objection if you don't need to? Yeah, it doesn't do anything for you. Okay, let's listen to the rest of this. Good job, John. I love, though, how you were like, okay, not a deal. Because the other thing to think about here, too, is if she's getting over asking price offers, then you know this isn't going to work. And time is money. Because remember, you're trying to get your metrics. So now you got to quickly shift, get to the relationship part, and get off the phone so you can make your next call. All right, let's go back to the screen. All right.
Yeah, but if you have another one, I can check that one out. Do you have an address?
Off the top of my head. Let's see.
There's the videos should be shown.
Is that real typing?
30243 Flanders. And it's in Warren.
30243 Flanders.
No, don't look that up, guys.
Delete.
Okay, add that to my properties.
It's not listed.
Okay, awesome.
She's gonna get 20
Oh, it's not listed.
Go and cut this for my numbers.
It gets listed tomorrow.
15, 20 minutes.
Have you made an offer?
Yep, and this one is going
I think I called it back and see the answer.
Okay.
And you rent.
Johnny, get on that. You want to make your offer before that's listed.
I think I did call it. Yeah, I did. I told her my offer.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully I can
I was like 100 grand under.
put something
She
a
had
little
it
competitive.
way over.
Make sure you told me the price.
She told me they wanted at 220. The thing was literally worth like 240 fixed up completely, and it needed major work. So I told her I could go there at like 170, maybe 160, because it was bigger too, so it wouldn't be for a buy.
Okay.
And
But
then
good. But it turned into a lead, and you made an offer on another one.
And then she was like, it's not even been on yet, so that may be a good number. We don't know yet. So call back in like a week and maybe. I had like 3 of those today. People telling me they just don't know. Call back in like a week and see if it's still.
Okay. So put that in your follow-up. That's a follow-up.
It's in my books.
Make sure you follow up on that. Those turn into deals if you follow up on those. All right. Good.
Yeah, their call's pretty much done though.
Yeah. Okay. Was that helpful? Some good feedback there?
Yeah.
All right. Now let's beat up Truman.
This was a cold start.
It's like the best call ever. No, guys, this is bad.
No, it's kind of like, I don't even know.
All right. We're going to listen to Truman's call. Here we go.
I threw some pictures too. Ooh.
Hey Norman, how's it going? I'm doing great.
Truman, what are you doing?
I'm cleaning my camera.
Oh.
Property still available?
Okay.
Ooh. Oh.
Come on.
Truman, you took your video up quality to a whole new level here with pictures.
Come on, guys.
It's definitely Grandma's house.
Yeah, I think we can get this property under contract for 144, not the 150.
Okay, so this guy's a wheeler dealer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, I think we can get this for 144.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he's like partners with the agent. He said, like, I didn't really get it. He'll kind of say it later.
Is this the seller or the agent?
I'm not.
You don't know.
He'll say.
Okay, let's listen.
And you would have, because this is off market, we would have you cover the buyer side commission, which is like $4,300.
Yeah. Of course.
Wait a minute.
So I didn't understand that at all.
Okay, so he said it's off market, but you'd have to cover the buyer side commission, which I'm guessing is him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what basically all he's okay, I gotcha. So what he's saying is hey, here's the price. It's off market. If we get it done, you're going to have to pay the $4,400 buyer side commission. Now, what that means to you is it means whatever price you agree on, you got to add another $4,400, and that's your number.
Yeah.
That's all. So sometimes people will be like, well, can you cover the commission, or can you pay this or pay that? And the answer is always yes. But now you just got to know that that's another cost that gets added onto the price. So the price still has to pencil at the end of the day. Right? Does that make sense? So it's sort of a weird situation. So just when you get weird stuff like this, just if you're confused, just start asking questions like, well, wait a minute. Why is there a buyer side commission? Is that you?
Yeah.
I got no problem paying it, but who is that in the transaction? Start asking questions.
So, I mean, have the other people been, close to that number?
So we're lucky here because the agent that has this property, I'm partner agents with him.
Yeah.
So he gives us a little bit of privilege here, okay?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so when he said partner, it just means on the listing. Yeah. So he's working with the other listing agent. They're doing like a co-listing of some kind.
So in the end, though, will they get the full commission because they're double dipping?
Yeah. Not? So, yeah, I don't know what that 4,400 covers, but he said that covers the buyer's agent commission. So maybe the seller's paying the seller, and they want you to pay the buyer. Now we're going to start to see stuff like that more often with the new commission rules. Yeah. So I bet you this is just the start of where you're going to see those things. Like I think come July, we're going to see a lot more conversations like this where they're like, hey, the buyer needs to now pay the buyer commission, not the seller. Okay.
That's awesome. I ran my numbers like the other day. I think I was closer to like 137. Like I know it's quite a bit under 144.
137?
Yeah.
That's not quite a bit under 144.
Yeah.
That's like right there.
I was not confident on my numbers at all. He just called me and I kind of just recorded.
Okay.
So it was like I was not ready for,
Yeah.
And I didn't like ground.
Is that the max amount of wiggle room there is?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, they probably have a bottom line. With the 144, I would assume their bottom line is probably 140, but the 144 gives us some cushion to look at the inspection a little harder and push back to get it down a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Well,
so you know what he did there?
Yeah.
He just cut the difference with you.
Yeah.
You could have said 114 and he'd have said, I think their bottom line is probably 130. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did not hold my ground either.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
I think you think you'd be able to write up an offer at 140. You get it in writing.
Yeah, I mean, I
Your face. What did you say?
You think you'd be able to write up an offer at 140? You get it in writing.
Yeah, I mean, I can absolutely. Why?
I didn't know my numbers. I was just kind of, I don't know.
Absolutely write an offer at 140, and we can see what they say.
Okay, awesome.
All right. So I just determined just what I need is, are you buying it in a company name?
No, it's gonna be my personal name.
This is personal name. Okay. If you can just send me your last name, obviously I got your first name, and I just want to make sure I spell everything correctly.
Yeah.
I'm going to get an offer together here for you and send it your way, and I'll talk everything over with the agent.
So what happened? Did you write this offer?
I think he sent it over. I haven't signed it yet. But so that's the other thing I was kind of curious about. Like, so can I sign contracts now? I just turned 18. So
you just turned 18?
So can I sign?
Yeah.
How does it work? Like,
yeah, you could sign.
Should it be in my personal name?
For your first deal, we're going to do that, and then after your first deal, we'll get an LLC set up.
And then
yeah,
double close or whatever.
Well, it'll just be in the LLC name. Oh, okay. Yeah, but so he sent this over at 140. But do you like 140? Like, is that a deal?
I wasn't sure.
Do we need to take a look at it?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. Like,
okay.
I think the interview was close. Like,
what's the rest of this talk about? The next 4 minutes. Anything good?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. Are we not screen sharing right now? No, we're not. Shoot.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I can't see anything.
Could you hear it?
Yeah, I could hear it, but I couldn't see it.
Okay. All right. You missed Truman. Oh, we have to show it. Let's go show it. This is the best. Let's go back a little bit, right? Where is it? Did I pass it?
140, and we can. So I just determined just what I need is, are you buying?
Oh, where is it? Oh, right here.
Yeah, I mean, I can absolutely.
The look of confidence.
Very nice.
They're like, oh crap, what did I just say?
Yeah.
That's
was
awesome.
It that you texted him the day before and then he called you and you didn't have your numbers ready?
Yeah, I didn't really have my
That happened to me today. Dude called me back that I forgot to save any of his information, so I just.
Truman, Come type this right here.
What? The property?
Yeah.
Here, let me see what it is.
Okay. Find the address. Let's look at it.
Right.
Because so you have a 140 offer in your inbox right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not. Yeah.
You're not confident in it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's maybe what we do is we look at that because that would be good use of time probably since you have a offer ready to sign.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's come back to that. Nathan, you want to do a call?
Sure. Yeah. Do you still have my drive?
Yeah, I downloaded it. Let me pull it up. Nathan's call is like super long, so not that long. 11 minutes. All right, Nathan, let's take a look at this bad boy.
What was it called? Which one is this?
Trish or something like that.
Trisha. Okay, yeah.
Trisha. Okay, let's go take a look.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just calling to see if I could get some details about the property real quick. Do you have a second to talk? Okay, cool. So yeah, I was just taking a look at the condition of the property. It's a mobile home, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to call about the condition. It looks like it just needs maybe some cosmetic work. Can you give me a rundown of kind of the major things that it needs in terms of repairs?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's the seller is actually the son of the previous owner. The previous owner passed away, and the son's just kind of.
Nathan, you get a ton of probates over there.
Dude, like 1 in every 3 agents I call is a freaking probate thing every single time.
I've noticed that.
Sell it. I don't know what to do with it. So he was like mid fixing, and he did it himself. So he did tear the master bathroom apart to finish it. So the flooring in there is just the subflooring. Actually, I think there is some tile put down. He just never finished it. But other than that, it's all there. Like the toilet and the tub and the shower, it's all there. It just needs flooring in there. Really flooring in the living room. It's carpet. It probably needs to be replaced. But and in the second and third bedrooms, it's subflooring, so it needs flooring.
Okay.
Let's see. The appliances are there, but they're just kind of old.
Okay.
They work, so it would be a good rental property, great rental property. It's a good sized lot. There's a huge shed in the back. I don't think he ever replaced the fence from Hurricane Michael. It got tore down. There is still fencing on like the sides. It's just mainly the back, and it backs up to a vacant lot. So it's, I guess it was never really necessary because he had the front. The front is completely fenced in. So I guess that's where he had it. I mean, he had a dog and he let his dog out there. So.
Okay. And then.
But yes, mostly there's a new roof.
Yeah.
The roof was replaced after Hurricane Michael. Metal roof. And like I said, the front fence is good. The AC, there's window units in there. I looked for central AC, just never. I don't know if he just never replaced it or what, but yeah, he just had, because it was just him, so he just had the window units.
Okay, so the AC works, or is it need to get replaced?
No, it needs replaced.
Okay.
There are window units there, and they work.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
But actually, central AC would need to be replaced. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Those are kind of all the major things you'd say.
Right. There's like some skirting from the back that have some holes in it, after a while mowing and stuff, they need to be replaced. So, but yeah, other than that, there's nothing that I know of that's major. I know the whole bathroom, he did redo that and it's good to go. So it's just, like I said, the master bath needs some flooring and maybe a sink. I don't remember if there was a sink in there.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Well, just off the top of your head, it's okay if you have absolutely no idea, but how much do you think it would cost to, fix all of that?
It really depends on, what kind of flooring you put in and that type of, and the AC.
So they always say to me.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Central AC just never.
Sorry.
Okay, gotcha.
But actually, central AC would need to be placed. So, but yeah, other than that, it's good to go. So it's just like I said, the master bath needs some flooring and maybe a sink. I don't remember if there was a sink in there.
Sorry,
Gotcha.
I had to
Gotcha,
fast
okay.
forward.
Cool. Well, I mean, just off the top of your head, I mean, it's okay if you have absolutely no idea, but I mean, how much do you think it would cost to, fix all of that?
It really depends on, what kind of flooring you put in and that type of, and the AC. So you figure, 5,000 to 8,000. Well, probably about 5 for AC. And then flooring. I mean, if you're going to rent it out, you could probably put 8 in it and have it good to go.
Okay.
But
yeah,
that's just a guesstimate. And like I said, I don't know what kind of flooring you're going to use or how much, if you do it yourself or what. So.
Okay.
And there's some there because, like I said, he started tiling that master bath, but just never finished. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Can I ask what's got him looking to sell the property? I mean, he could just fix it up and use it as a rental or something.
Could.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could, but he's a single guy, and like I said, it's a property that's been in his family for,
Okay, Nathan, why are you asking that question? You there, Nathan?
Yeah. You mean the question of, why doesn't he just fix it himself?
Yeah, why doesn't he keep it and rent it? Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to see if there's anything underlying or if he owed like something on it or whatever. But I was just kind of asking to get a little bit deeper because I was like, well, if you could just fix this and, buy and hold it and rent it yourself, why not just do that? And so,
yeah,
just curious as to why.
So Nathan, be careful that you don't do an agent call like you do a direct to seller call. Because I know you're doing some direct to seller calls with where you're with work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because why don't they just keep it and rent it? That's a great question if you're talking to a seller, just to try to understand why they're selling. But we know they're selling because they listed with an agent. So once someone lists with an agent, they've already made the decision that they don't want to rent it and they just want to sell it. It's not a bad question. I'm just asking you to think about where you're going with it, what you're trying to accomplish, why you're asking that question, what information that's going to be helpful to you. Like if she said, because of this, this, and this, how's that helpful? What are you using it for? Just want to think through some of those things. Like when she's going on about the repairs and stuff, that was great. And I loved how you said, okay, well, what do you think that's going to cost? So then when she says, oh, maybe like 8,000, but it depends on what you do. Why is that helpful? Like, what are you doing with that information? You're making notes right now. You're like, okay, agent thinks 8K. Are you then plugging that into your deal analyzer to then get adjusting your offer? Or, make sure you're using that to then do something. Sometimes it's just to get them talking and build rapport, but you want to then progress the call into where that's valuable information. So what I'll often say, because agents tend to way underdo the numbers, is I'll say 8,000. Wow. It looks to me like by the time I do carpet and paint and AC and blah, 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 this feels a little bit more like 15 to 20. And it does, because an AC is like $5,000 just for the AC. And she said $8,000 carpet and paint and a bunch of other things. You know what I mean? So in your mind, you've got a number already. You're like, okay, well, this looks like it's about a 20K rehab. They say 8K. Do I just move on, or do I maybe challenge that or talk about that a little bit more? Remember, you're trying to position yourself for a low offer. So the reason why the condition is helpful is because we're going to use that as leverage to get a low offer. So if they make it seem like it hardly needs anything and it's not going to cost anything, And the reality is we know that, man, if you hire that stuff out, there's no way you're under 15 or 20 grand on that thing. I mean, flooring alone is going to be $5, paint's going to be $5, and AC is going to be $5. There's 15 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just to paint, carpet, and do the AC is 15 grand. Like right out of the gate and then probably another $5 grand and this and that. Other things, right? Like, need a light fixture or whatever. Things aren't working. There's a plumbing leak somewhere, all the things. So then you want to be like, okay, well, what do you think that's going to cost? And she says $8 grand. Yeah, for me, I would have to hire all of this out. So to do AC, carpet paint, and then I reiterate what they just said, that's probably closer to 20 grand. And she'll be like, oh, well, okay, well, you're the rehab or you're the guy, you're the investor. Now, if she says, yeah, I bet you could get all that done for 40 grand, you're like, okay, 40 grand, and I'm going to write down 40 grand because now that's helping you get to a low offer.
Gotcha. Okay.
See what I mean? So, and I've seen this happen now a couple times where they throw out these super low numbers that are like, there's no way. Remember, Johnny, was it yours, Nathan? That was like $6 grand with your buddies on the weekend. Remember that call we did last week?
I don't know. I called so many people.
Okay. But the agent was like, well, if you got your buddy and you went over there and did it yourself on the weekend, you could get all this done for $6 grand. Your response would be like, yeah, well, we run a business. We would hire it all out. That'd probably be more like 25 grand for me to do this, and this.
Yeah. When that guy said that, it sounded like he was joking, but like a joke where he was still saying what it is.
Maybe,
like
but
passive aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, there's no way I'm going out there. I would mess it up even worse if I tried to do it. But I'd hire contractors, and if I hired competent contractors, it would probably cost more like around 20.
Like, if he was like, you get done for $6K with your buddies on the weekend, and you're like,
yeah,
actually, you couldn't.
Yeah, actually, you couldn't. Yeah,
it just ruins the vibe.
So, because Nathan, I see you asking a lot of really good questions. That's one thing that you're really good at. You ask a lot of really good questions. But just keep pressuring yourself to understand, why am I asking these questions? How am I using it to leverage me making an offer, building a relationship, but also leveraging making a low offer? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, let me get back to your call. Oops. Let's see. Share. Nathan.
Since they put the mobile home on there, so. But he's not the type to even want to deal with it. So
okay,
he's just ready to. And he has a couple siblings, and they're not here in town.
Okay.
So yeah, he just wants to sell it and wash his hands.
Gotcha. So he's probably looking to sell it as soon as possible then.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And
so Nathan, it's listed for sale, so he wants to sell it as soon as possible because he listed it for sale. Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. What you could ask right here is you could say, do you think if I offered all cash, he would entertain a lower offer if I could come in with all cash? What kind of offer do you think he'd entertain if I came in with all cash? Because look, I got to come in and do all these repairs that are going to probably cost me, 15 to 20 grand. If I come in with all cash, so, see what I mean? Like you could maybe lead her down that road of like, well, what do you think he would do with an all cash offer? Or what do you think his bottom line is? Like you're trying to get, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get that agent to give you an idea of motivation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
I'm assuming went through probate and everything like that already.
Yes.
Yeah. So is it all like, does he have final say over the property, or do his siblings kind of have some say in,
Well, they are on there as well, but he said that they are just going to sign it over. So,
okay.
And I don't know if he's giving them something for it or what the deal is, but yeah, they're supposed to just go ahead and sign it. I think one is in Tennessee and one's in like Oklahoma or Arkansas or something. So, but they don't really want to hassle with it either.
Again, I don't think, Nathan, with an agent, you need to worry too much about that, because an agent's not going to list a property if she doesn't do a little bit of homework on her end and make sure all the signers are on board. Like that's kind of her job. So asking like, well, are all the siblings on board here? You can assume that that's all there because it's on market. Now, if it's off market, that's a really important question to ask, because now you're the one that has to figure out how to put this deal together. There's no agent there that's bridging that gap.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. And I see some of your off-market training coming out where you're asking these qualifying questions, but with on-market, the agents should be handling all of that, or will handle all of that. She'll go get all the signatures she needs, and you don't have to deal with that. You're only going to sign as the buyer on the contract. That agent's going to go get all the right signatures needed for the seller. Okay.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Can I ask if anything's owed against the property by chance?
I don't believe so.
Okay. This should be free and clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And then in terms of his or your guys' listed price, is he negotiable on that, or is he pretty tight on getting what you guys have it listed for?
He's willing to negotiate. Like I said, he just wants to be done with it. I mean, he's pretty stubborn though. He's not, he saw the comps and all that, so he knows what he should get or what properties around it are selling for. So, I mean, it may take some, and it's been on the market for a little while too, so he may be just ready to, let's just do it,
Gotcha, yeah. Okay, cool. No, I'm just asking because, I'm a home investor and, I'm just trying to put into consideration all the, the things that need to get fixed and how much it would cost and, all those things. And if it needs new appliances and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Appliances right there. Appliances are going to be, $3,000, Nathan, just in appliances, right? See what I mean? Like this is a 20 plus rehab, 20K plus rehab.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then it is a mobile home, right? Is everything with the foundation doing okay for the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
It went through Hurricane Michael, and that area was one of the worst hit areas over there.
Gotcha.
As far as tornado damage and wind damage, and basically the only thing damage-wise from that I can tell, I mean, it lasted better than a lot of houses I saw. So,
yeah.
But the new roof, the AC, the fence, and pretty much everybody over there had to replace those things. So for that to be it is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, cool. Well, I mean, I'd love to get you a cash offer that you could present to him verbally. Could you run something by him and just see if he's open to a cash offer and see if he's open to the price that I'm kind of wanting to be around? Okay, yeah. So it's definitely going to be pretty low just from an investor's point of view. I'd like to go in there if I'm going to invest in it and kind of plan on making a bit of a profit, and then I got partners that are going to want to come in with me and flip it. So just planning with all the repairs, it's definitely, going to be a bit of money because I'm going to want to fix everything that needs to be fixed. So that's, change the appliances, paint it, put a new flooring where flooring needs to be put in, all that jazz. You know how it is. So, I would love to be around, I'd love to be around 20, if that is anywhere in your guys' ballpark. I know you're probably wanting to punch me in the face right now, but
Nathan, okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah, I did this today.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't assume your offer is a crappy offer.
You gotta fake it till you make it.
Well, it's not a crappy offer. 20 is a great offer. Right? Like Nathan, you're gonna if you're gonna make money with it, or somebody's gonna make money with it, 20 is a great offer. Right? So don't be embarrassed.
For you.
Well, I mean, we're doing this for you to make money.
Maybe you could say that. Would that be a smart thing to say? Be like,
what?
It kind of sucks for you, but this is...
No, don't say that. No, because...
This is great for me, though.
Great for you,
Well, the seller can always say no. So why would a seller take a 20K offer? Because your cash, your speed, your convenience, you can close quickly. They want to be done with it.
Or 100,
20, right? 20K.
It's a mobile home.
It's a mobile home, and you offered 20K, right?
How much was it listed for?
I don't know. What was it listed for? Do you remember?
Probably like 100 or 80 or something around there.
So you're way off. Yeah.
Doing like a house that's worth, or they have it listed at 200,000, offering 120 is like way easier than offering 20 on like $100,000 house.
Yeah.
It feels so like anxious coming out of your mouth. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, it's so scary.
Such a squeeze ball.
Yeah, so there's ways around that. So let's talk about this, because we got to get over this, because it's coming across that you don't have confidence in your offer. And you don't want to communicate that, because all that will do is it will instantly trigger a rejection or a really high counter. Because if you're not confident at 20 and you still put it out there, then it feels like a fishing offer or just like a low ball. And that can tend to be offensive to people, or even like a waste of time. So what would you say there? You would, first of all, Nathan, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, is you have to establish why you need to be down there low. Right now, you established that the rehab is 8K, because she said 8K and you said, okay. Now you did go back and say, look, I got to do all this work. But in her mind, all that work is $8,000. So that's where, if you go back and you're like, yeah, $8,000. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, don't be rude about it, but I'd be like, man, there's just no way I could get all that done for 8K.
I guess I'm kind of confused in regards of like, because I don't always know what repairs and what is going to cost what. Like, because it kind of varies depending on the square footage or whatever. So, like, we're supposed to ask the agent how much it costs in repairs, but like, are we supposed to always just kind of have our own number in mind? Because like, if I don't have any idea how much the repairs to it are going to cost, and they give me an idea, should I still just run with?
Well, if you put it in Deal Analyzer as average, it's probably going to pull out 25K. Like, Deal Analyzer has the algorithm for repairs.
True.
So if you go into Deal Analyzer and you put repairs light, average, or heavy, it'll automatically give you a ballpark number, and that number is right on. I bet you right now, if you did it, it would tell you it was 25K, and that thing's every bit of 25K. If you're gonna do things right and flip it, that's what you would do.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, if it's a rental, you can chop that down a bit, but just think about it, Nathan. Like, you can't get a painter to go paint 1,000 square foot house without spending 5 to 6, 7,000. Carpet's going to cost you 5 to 7,000. Just what it costs. AC units are $5,000. Appliances are going to be like those Home Depot specials. Those are 25 to $3,000 for a little refrigerator and a stove and a dishwasher. You know, and that's all like Home Depot special. And then you're always going to have odds and ends stuff that needs done. So there's another $5,000 of like list of stuff. You're at $25,000 without even blinking. So yeah, you do want to understand repairs a little bit. You don't need to know them all exactly. Like, I know them all and I can rattle them off just because I'm so used to looking at the numbers all the time. But as a wholesaler, you still want to get a little bit of an idea around what stuff cost. And I would go off of that Deal Analyzer that runs those numbers for you. We have a built-in algorithm, and it's pretty dang close on that. So
I wonder if I could like watch rehab TV shows.
No, they lie on those shows. Those aren't anywhere close to real. We also have a rehab estimator tool where you could actually put the items in and it will run the numbers for you. But you don't need to do all that. That takes too much time.
Do like an AI one where you just put the
There are some AI ones I'm exploring, but right now the Deal Analyzer will give you right where you need to be. So then use that. Say, man, it looks like I got a lot to do here. You know, I think the rehab's probably realistically more like around 25,000. And if she's like, well, why do you think it's so high? Then you just rattle back to her all the things. You're like, well, you said AC, you said carpet paint, you said this, the appliances.
But with not wanting to take too long in your time beforehand, should we really run through these numbers?
No, but the Deal Analyzer does it automatically. You don't have to run any numbers.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess my kind of question is like, we should just keep it on Deal Analyzer, but what if they're pretty tough? Like, oh no, I just told you it would cost this much. I'm like, oh, well, actually, it's going to cost this much. And then they're like, well, I do this.
Yeah, well, they're just ballparking because you asked them to. They're not going to be.
No, I'm asking like in other examples, because in other examples, like I had this one guy, I didn't record it sadly, but I went in and I was like, hey, if I was gonna, fix and flip this thing, I need to be like 30K lower than what they had it listed for, or maybe 40K. And he was like, what? No, it's only going to cost 5K in rehabs. And he was like really, really stern on that number, and he wasn't like budging on it. So I guess in that case, what do you do?
Well, I would say, okay, well, add that up for me. How are you getting 5K? Like, how are you feeling like that's 5K? And then he'll start saying, well, you could get this done for that and this done for that. And then you could be like, okay, well, let me go back and crunch my numbers because I don't think I can get it done for that. I hire out the work. I'd have to hire contractors. And for me to hire competent contractors, you can't do anything for under 15K. Like you can't even touch a house for less than 15 grand. I just did a cosmetic rehab here down the street and it was $100,000. Everything costs way more today than it ever did before. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like everything adds up. So you do need to get your head a little bit around repair. Don't freak out about it, but like watch, let's do it right now. I'm going to share the screen right now and we're going to go into Instant Deal Analyzer. What's the square footage on that house? Do you remember?
Probably like 1,000 or 800 to 1,000.
Let's call it average. Let's say you're planning on wholesaling it, and let's put, 15,000. Next step. It's going to want the address. Let me just make one up real quick. I don't know if it'll let me do this, but let's say calculate. Okay, so I just made up the address. Give it a second. And do you see what I just did there? I put in average, 1,000 square feet. I don't know why it's spinning. Come on, baby. Right now that's thinking.
Yeah, no, I use the deal analyzer every time I do something. I guess I was just curious if you should go off what the realtor tells you or just deal analyzer every time.
Not unless if what they're saying is way off from what deal analyzer says, question it. If what they says is coming in around there, then you're okay. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee you, deal analyzer is going to call that 25K, and she said 8. So, and again, why does it matter? It matters because in her mind, she's going, okay, well, this thing will sell for 120. You spend 8 to 10K, right? There's 100. Someone should be able to buy this for 80 and make 10 or something, like, you know what I mean? Like in their mind, they're running numbers of what seems fair. So you want to make the comps as low as possible and the repair as high as possible, just in case, because it might sell for the lowest comp and it might cost you it always costs you more than you think it's going to. That's rehabbing, right? So then you want to help yourself establish a lower price because of that. Otherwise, talking about repairs does nothing for you to position a low offer. You want to use that to position a low offer. So like one of the things I'll say, and you did this a little bit, is you said, okay, so if I buy this property and I spend 25K on the repairs, by the time I spend money on commissions to buy it and resell it, by the time I pay closing fees to buy it and resell it, by the time I pay financing fees to my private money investor and try to make a little bit of money, man, I got to be down there probably in like the 20s. Like you don't even have to say 20. Or man, I got to be down there closer to like the teens. You know what I mean? Like throw out an idea of an offer. Man, I got to be pretty low. I got to be down there at least around 20. I might be able to come up a little bit, but man, I got to be down there at least around 20. And you're saying around, you're saying ballpark. Make it an idea, not an offer. Mm-hmm. And then you follow up with, oh, well, there's no way they would take that and blah, blah, blah. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to say, look, I know you're going to hate me. I know you're not going to like this offer. I know the seller is going to reject it. You want to be careful about positioning it as a way to where you're already eliciting a no. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Just have a little more confidence with it because you ran your numbers and that's a deal. So I would tell them, look, for this to be a deal, I got to be around 20 and then be quiet and let that sit.
Mm.
Okay? That make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go back to your call. Okay.
That's kind of that's kind of where I'd like to be as an investor, just with all the repairs that need to be done. Now I can do some more homework and see, but I mean, I think that's where I'd like to be around.
Okay, well, that's doubtful, but I will absolutely text it to him and see what he says. And is this a good number to reach you at?
Okay.
Yep, this is my mobile.
So Nathan, she's willing to still make the offer. So great. I mean, she's not real hopeful, but that's fine.
And then do you happen to know, just if we can explore all of our options, is he open to doing anything creative by chance, or is that off the table?
Creative by, what do you mean?
I mean, in creative financing, where I can pay him a little bit up front, give him a nice down.
Okay, so don't use the word creative financing. Agents don't know what that means, most. Some will if they work with investors, Nathan. But you want to say that a little bit differently. You want to wait until she says, well, there's absolutely no way that they'll take that. She says, hey, I'm willing to make that offer, no problem. You could follow up and say, hey, just so you know, I might be able to pay more than 20. That's my cash number. I might be able to pay more than 20 if the seller would what, Johnny? Be willing to wait.
Yeah, wait to get all their money.
To get some or all of their money. And she's going to go, well, what do you mean? And she already told you free and clear, so you already know that your play is seller financing. You could say, well, if the seller would let me put a little bit of money down to cover closing fees and commissions and maybe put a little in his pocket, we could do an owner finance or a seller finance. And if the seller was willing to do that, I could probably pay a little more. I could probably pay more than that 20 cash. Or I might be able to pay more than 20 cash. See what I mean? So you're always saying maybe, might, because you don't know. It depends on all the terms. Mm-hmm. But all you're doing is you're throwing out there creative finance to see what she says.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what I often do is I got my cash offer out. She said she'd present it, as I would wait until she comes back and she's like, yeah, the seller said no way in hell would he take 8, would he take 20? And then that's a good time to say, okay, well, I might be able to pay more if the seller was willing to wait to get some or all of his money. And she'll say, well, what do you mean? And you say, well, if I put a little bit of money down, because you have to make sure they get paid. So you have to put enough down to pay the agent, closing fees, and ideally a little bit of money in the seller's pocket. Now, what that adds up to, we don't know yet. You're just throwing that out there. So then you would say, well, what it would mean I'd put enough money down to cover closing fees, commissions, and a little money in the seller's pocket. And then the seller would do a seller finance loan with me. And she'll know what that means. She'll be like,
okay.
Oh, okay. No, they really want to get cashed out and move on. Or, well, I don't know. Maybe they would entertain that. She might say, well, what does that offer look like? Like, what would the terms be? And then I would say, why don't you call him and just see if he's interested, if he's open to that. If he's open to that, then I'll run all my numbers and I'll put together the terms of that offer. And I'll let you know what they are. But first ask him if he's open to it. Because you don't want to get out the calculator and run all the terms if the seller's like, no way.
Okay.
That makes
sense. Yeah.
That's how you do a 2-step with seller financing. That's how you come back and counter. You wait till you get the rejection, and then you counter, hey, I might be able to pay higher if they're open to that.
So she's willing to present a cash offer, let her present it, and then she comes back with either something that's not in our ballpark or whatever. That's when we bring up creative financing?
Correct. That's typically the best way to do that.
Okay.
Because you don't want to counter against yourself and let her make the cash offer. She said she would. Now, where I'll do it is if they're like, no way, I'm not even going to present that. So if she's like 20, sorry, Nathan, there's no way I know for a fact the seller won't take that offer.
So do you not want to present as many options as you can? Because what if, do we not want her to go to the seller and be like, hey, we got a cash offer for this much, or they can do something with creative financing, have them explain that? Would you rather have them do it one at a time, or you don't want them to have it?
Not typically, because if they'll take the cash, I want the cash every time.
Yeah.
I prefer the low cash because that gives me more options. I can do all kinds of things now. So I really don't want to give them lots. Have one And it's really clear. And then when she says no to that, okay, well, let's explore maybe a different idea. What do you think about this idea? What do you think about me putting some money down and he doesn't a seller finance? I might be able to pay more for that. And now you're coming back with a counter, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Truman?
That's good to know because I was like offering like pretty much right after. Like
okay,
I could pay more with seller financing.
Yeah.
But pretty much right after I offered my cash.
I wouldn't do that if they're willing to make your verbal.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're willing to make your verbal, let them make the verbal. Make sure you follow up though, because sometimes they'll make the verbal and they'll say no, and then they don't ever tell you, and they go dark.
Problem. Yeah, I gotta be better at following up.
Yeah, I gotta follow up because if they say they're gonna make the offer, you better be on them. Like tonight, texting to be like, "Hey, how'd that go?" Talking to the seller, what'd they say? Yeah. Otherwise, they're gonna blow you off. They're just gonna not do it, or they're gonna not tell you they did it.
Yeah.
That happens all the time with agents. Yeah. They can't even be bothered to tell you.
Okay, well, that's all good to know because I thought we were trying to like present as many options as possible at one time. So I guess it's good to kind of take it a little slower.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep. But Nathan, that 20K, that is the number. That's if you run the math. Now, the one thing you want to think about is that may not be the right offer if it's not a flip, because if you run the numbers as a flip, it's not that that's the wrong offer. That's the right offer for a flip. A flip might not be the right solution for that property.
Okay.
And you know what I mean? Because if you're hitting these low income stuff and it's a mobile home, I think your avatar is probably a buy and hold guy, not a flipper.
True.
Flippers don't like to flip mobile homes, really, usually. I mean, unless we're doing one right now with Lance in Orlando, but it's like a $375 price. It's a manufactured on a lot, but it's a great neighborhood and there's great comps, all manufactured homes. So like that's a flip to a retail buyer. But what was the ARV in this thing? Like 100 grand or 120 or something like that?
I think it was probably around 120.
Yeah. Anything that's around 100 ARV is usually a better rental than it is a flip.
Okay.
Because you might be able to pay, let's say that thing only needed, if for a flip, if it needs 25, for a rental, it needs half that. Whatever your flip numbers are, a landlord's going to spend a half or a quarter of that. They're just not going to fix everything up because it's a rental. Now, in that case, you got to do flooring because you can't rent it without carpet, and you got to paint, and you got to do appliances, and you probably got to do AC. So that one might actually be not that far off of what a landlord would have to do as a flipper. But a flipper's probably going to go do countertops, and they're probably going to do new light fixtures, and they're probably going to spend way more, right, than a buy and hold guy. A buy and hold guy is not going to spend all the money doing nice stuff because it's a rental. Okay, so then if that's the case, then you want to be thinking you want to analyze it as a rental. What are buy and hold guys paying for something like this? What's their number less my wholesale fee? So then you would shift your conversation and you would start talking about what? You wouldn't talk about value, you would talk about rents. So you would say, so remember Johnny's call, she was like, "Hey, what kind of buyer are you looking for here? Like who's your ideal buyer?" And she said, like an entry-level buyer or a buy and hold investor. Now, that agent was savvy. They knew exactly who they were targeting. Your agent was smart, too. So she probably would have said, yeah, we're hoping we can find someone that wants to use it as a rental. Or I think the best use for this property would be as a rental. And you could say to her, look, if I'm going to try to flip this thing, man, I got to go in there and do way more. But, I mean, I'd have to be down at like 20 if I'm going to flip this thing. If it's a rental, I could probably pay a little bit more because I won't have to do as much. What do you think the ideal buyer is? Who do you think would be a good fit for this? Do you think this is better for a flipper or better for a buy and hold investor? And again, you're just trying to get her ideas and opinion so much as it's helpful. Like maybe that's helpful to you because she's a market expert and that information is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Only valuable if you're using it to position your offer.
Gotcha.
Like if she's like, man, this thing would get $1,500 a month, and to get that, you could probably just not even paint it. You could probably just put some carpet down. There's already some there. I think she said something like that. And man, you could probably just get that AC unit to work, and you might be able to get in and out of here for next to nothing and have this thing rent ready. Like when I hear that, I'm like, okay, I got to find me a landlord that's going to want this thing. Maybe the rehab only is 8 to 10, and at $1,500 a month, I bet you someone would eat this thing up for 80 grand. It's listed for 99.9. If I pick this thing up for 65, I could probably wholesale this for 75 or 80 to a buy and hold guy. But now I know that I'm trying to market the deal to the right buyer. Okay, you gotta understand the difference between a flipper and a buy and hold. They look at things much differently. Buy and hold's going to pay way more. Flipper's going to pay the lowest.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep, is that helpful?
Yeah, super helpful.
Let's jump to a few questions, guys. We did a lot of calls there, or a lot of talk about calls. Thank you guys for being active in the chats. Let's see if there's anything good in here. We're probably not going to get to all of these. Fuzzy Void said, do most agents and sellers not like wholesalers? So sellers don't even know what a wholesaler is usually. And agents, a lot of agents don't like wholesalers because they had a bad experience where a wholesaler backed out of a contract. And all it takes is them having one bad experience with a wholesaler, and then all wholesalers are bad. So they could have had a bad experience and they don't like wholesalers, or they could not have any issues with wholesalers. You don't know. The point where we were talking about was you don't ever want to create objections unnecessarily. That's all. Okay, let's see what this question is here. We're doing their job, not having to split our profit with a broker, paying nation agency, a realtor, union fees, cutting them out of the picture, jealousy. Okay, so you're talking about agents, how they don't like wholesalers. Okay, this is more about that conversation. How does the purchase and sale agreement work? Because I currently have zero money. Well, for one, you can get mine for free. Just go to wholesalercontracts.com and I'll give you mine for free. But remember, this is agent right now. So the agent's going to use their state approved contract and they're going to write the offer. You have to give the agent the offer sheet, which we give you for free. It's in that PDF download, because that's what you give the agent so that the agent can write the offer. The agent needs to know what you want in the offer, but the agent writes the offer for you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's see what this question is. So this is good here. I've been cold calling all day, and now I'm here watching more calls, always trying to implement new strategies. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's how you learn. You keep trying to up your game. Is there a price point where I can adjust from using a 75 formula to an 80 formula? I know everywhere is different, but is there a general rule of thumb? So some investors like me, when I flip, I'm at 70 typically. The average in most markets is 75. You might find someone paying 80, like a do-it-yourselfer might be paying 80% less repairs. But as a safe rule of thumb, I would stay at 75. Now, if you know you have buyers in your market paying 80, then you could adjust knowing that your market does 80. How do you learn that? You talk to a lot of buyers and you find out where they're buying at. Like, well, hey, what's your formula? Every time I talk to cash buyers, I'm like, hey, what's your buy criteria? What do you buy at? Help me understand where you buy so that I can bring better deals to you. The only way to really learn that is to get active with your buyers in your market and see where they're at. But typically, 75% is where people are. If you want to be extra safe, go 70. Okay, let's see. Illuminati. Jerry, I may have a property in Oregon. ARV is 914, but I'm hoping to lock it up for 588. Are you interested in JV with me? So if you go with dispowithjerry.com, we can help you JV. Remember, though, your formula is going to be ARV, right? You're going to take 70, 75% of that. Then you're going to subtract repairs, and then that's your buy price. So I couldn't answer this question if I don't know what the repairs are. If I know what the repairs are, I can run a formula and get to where I would want to be on an offer, or where I think the market would want to be on a price. Okay.
Look at the most recent one.
Comment. This one. This one. That's the lane, so it should be, or maybe it's not. Okay. What's that? Oh, it's your comment, isn't it? Come on, Truman. Let's see it. What is it? All right, we'll come back to it. Okay, got to that one. Okay, so this is a comment here. I get overwhelmed about the house prices. Was that about the cost of repairs? I think you were saying cost of repairs. So, understanding repairs is just a vernacular that you can learn and you can start talking about. I do a lot of videos where I talk about how to break down repairs, but again, I think you're overthinking it. Don't overthink it. Follow the deal analyzer. It will give you, every property falls into one of three buckets. It's either light, which is just carpet and paint. It's either average, which is carpet, paint, plus needs a new kitchen and it needs a new bath. That's average. And then there's heavy. Heavy needs everything. Roof, window, siding. It's a gut job. It's hammered really badly. It's going to need, A to Z everything done. That would be heavy. All rehabs fall into one of those three categories for the most part.
I usually just do average on like everything.
Yeah, just do average. I mean, that's what I start with, average. And then if I get into it, I'm like, oh, this thing is a lot worse than I thought. I can bump it. If I'm like, oh, this thing's super clean, all it needs is a little tiny bit of stuff, I'll drop it down. But average, that's a great way to do it, Johnny. Go into Deal Analyzer, click average. You're in the middle now, and then you could go up or down from there if you need to. And how do I adjust it? So oftentimes, if you watch me on the Watch Me Wholesale show, I'll adjust as I go. I'll be adjusting. Like if they're talking about comps, and I'm like, okay, what do you think it'll sell for? And they're like 3 to 310. And let's say I was at 275. I would say, okay, when I ran comps, I was coming in like around 275. You think it could get 3 to 310? Yes, I think it could get 3 to 310. Wow, that's great. I would love to be able to run numbers off of 310. Tell me where you're getting that from. Like, show me some comp. Do you have a comp handy that you're looking at, or what do you like? So I start to ask questions, right? Like, okay, well, if you say 310, why? Let's say that my repair number is 25, and they're like, yeah, you could get this done for 8. Okay, well, man, I'm thinking it's more like 25. Why? Like, ask questions. If they're like, yeah, it's probably going to cost you like 50, and you put down average at 25, you could be like, oh, that's more than I thought. Why do you think it needs so much?
I think the
it needs a roof. Oh, okay.
The average also depends on how big the house is. So when you press average, it'll vary dependent on.
So what it does is there's a per foot price for the cost based on light, average, and heavy, and then it multiplies that by the square footage of the house. So you have to have the square footage in order for it to work.
And I think one of the ways I look at it is like if it's dated, average. If it's like gutted, heavy. And then if it's just like a few little things like maybe some paint or
carpet paint.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Where's your comment at, Truman?
I know I didn't get
I was hoping I could. It was funny.
No, I was plugging myself.
Oh, you were like Truman's a flipping genius.
I got a YouTube channel.
Oh, I got you. You're putting a plug to your YouTube channel. Got it. By the way, guys, leave a comment and say, Johnny, Truman, and Nathan, you guys are flipping geniuses. I mean, honestly, you guys are willing to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, get feedback. But this is where you can learn so much. I'm so glad that you guys are willing to do that and, open to learning and get ideas from that. So that's really cool, guys. And you guys at home, have someone listen to it. Like have someone the best person to listen to your calls is someone that doesn't understand real estate whatsoever. And then see what they think about it. If they're like, I was so confused what you were talking about, or, oh yeah, that made sense. That sounded really good. Okay. All right. So we've gone over our 2-hour mark here, guys. We gotta wrap up today, but hope we got to those questions. If you have a question that we did not get to in the live chat that's important to you, please go ahead and put that in the comments once we stop the video, because now we'll see that afterwards. And I'll try to go back in there and answer any questions that we did not get to. But guys, this is a big week this week. You guys hit your metrics. Tell me right now, guys, we're going to hit my calls. I'm going to stay consistent. Nathan, you got to stay consistent. I know it's hard with life and work and things going on, but just set aside that time, calendar it out, and hit those metrics, because we got to get to a deal here. And you guys are so close. I know it. I can feel it. Good?
Yep.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you, everybody. Sure appreciate you. And we'll catch you on the next.